In the previous video, we gave the definition of optimization and even formulated a few problems as optimization problems. What we have not done, however, is discuss how you go about solving such problems. What if I told you that each one of these three optimization problems can be solved easily with a few lines of code? And note that the code is almost identical for these three problems, even though the problems themselves look very different. We won't go into the details of the code or the algorithms, that's for a later video. But what we will do today is present the common property that allows us to solve all of these problems in a unified fashion. And this property is called, as you might have guessed, convexity. So, what is convexity? If you open any textbook, you will find the definition of convexity in three different contexts: the context of sets, functions, and optimization problems. Let's go through them one by one. The first definition relates to sets. A set is convex if, for any pair of points inside the set, the segment between the 2 points falls entirely inside the set. It's easy to visualize how a set can fail to be convex. So, for example, this set with a hole in it fails to be convex because the middle point falls outside of the set. For similar reasons, this set here also fails to be convex. Examples of convex sets include planes, polyhedra, aka intersection of half spaces, balls, potato shapes, etc. You get the idea. The second definition relates to functions. A function f is convex if its epigraph, that is the region above the graph of the function, is a convex set. Intuitively, this means that the function is ball-shaped, or curved upward, if you will. Convex functions include the function x, or any linear function for that matter, the function x squared, the exponential function, etc. Non-convex functions include the function x cubed, the sine function, etc. And I should mention here that a nice way to construct new convex functions from existing ones is to take a function that is known to be convex and scale it with a positive constant, or take two convex functions and add them together. The third context where one encounters convexity is that of optimization problems. An optimization problem is said to be convex if the objective function f is convex, the functions gi that give the inequality constraints are convex, and the functions hi are linear. You might wonder why we require the functions hi to be linear and not just convex. The reason for that is simple. We can replace an equality h equals 0 with two inequalities h smaller than 0 and minus h smaller than 0. And the only functions for which h and minus h are both convex are the linear ones. Now that we get the formalities out of the way, what is convexity really, and why do we care about it? I would argue that the crucial thing that convexity allows us to do is apply the principle of duality. The principle of duality is so fundamental and so beautiful that if there was only one thing you should remember from this video, it should be this one. Duality is the ability to view a mathematical concept from two different perspectives, a primal one and a dual one. Let's be more concrete and see what duality means in the three contexts where convexity appears: sets, functions, and optimization problems. Let's start with convex sets. The definition I gave before was internal. I took points inside the set and I required that the segment between them be inside the set too. There is a dual external definition too. Now, instead of taking a point inside my set, I take a hyperplane that supports my set. This simply means that I take a hyperplane in such a way that my set falls entirely in the positive side of this hyperplane. With the definition of supporting hyperplanes in mind, the dual definition of convex sets is as follows. A set is convex if, when you consider the intersection of the positive regions of all of its supporting hyperplanes, you recover the set itself. Let that sink in for a moment and let's just take some time to appreciate the ramifications of this definition to optimization. According to this dual definition, convex sets are the ones defined with possibly infinitely many linear inequalities. So somehow convex sets, through the lens of the duality principle, are polyhedra with possibly infinitely many faces. And most of the things that we love about the linear world that makes things simpler extend to the convex world with little effort. This actually reminds me of the quote of Rockefeller, one of the leading figures in optimization theory, who said, "In fact, the great watershed in optimization isn't between linearity and nonlinearity, but between convexity and non-convexity." What he means by that is that for a long time, we thought that linear problems are easy and nonlinear problems are hard. But as it turns out, and this is a more and more commonly held belief, what actually makes optimization problems easy is convexity, which generalizes the notion of just linearity. Back to duality, the duality principle can be more clearly seen in the context of convex functions, as it lets you extrapolate the local behavior of a function to some global property of this function. And this statement will make more sense in a second. If we want to talk about local behavior of a function, we have to mention Taylor's approximation theorem. In its simplest form, this theorem states that if you zoom in on a function around the point x, then it would look a lot like a linear function. Or in other words, the line, or in higher dimension, the hyperplane given by this equation, is a good approximation of the graph of f around the point x. And this hyperplane is usually called a tangent hyperplane. The dual definition of convex functions is as follows. F is convex if and only if its graph is always above its tangent hyperplanes. The ramifications of this new definition are huge. Let's say you find a point x where the gradient of f is equal to 0, then the tangent hyperplane at that point is horizontal. And since convex functions will always be above their tangent planes, this means that the point x is actually a global minimizer of f. And this already gives us a way to solve unconstrained minimization problems. Take the function x squared plus 1 as an example. This function is convex, and its gradient or derivative is 2 times x. So when x equals 0, the derivative is equal to 0. So x equals 0 is where this function attains its minimum. Another example of an unconstrained optimization problem is the least squares problem we saw in the last video. To find its minimum, we simply set the gradient to 0, and then we solve for x. The third and last example I wanted to show you is that of a non-constant linear function like this one. The gradient of this function is a constant given by a non-zero constant vector. And since this gradient can never vanish, we can conclude that this linear function doesn't have a minimizer. And indeed, it's not hard to see that non-constant linear functions are unbounded. Notice how in all of the examples, we went from an information about the gradient, which is local, to a global property of the function, that is that x is a global minimizer of the function. And all of that thanks to convexity. A word of warning here. In general, not all convex optimization problems are as easy to solve as these three. For one, the objective function can be more complicated, so much so that it would not be possible to solve the gradient equation directly. And in that case, several methods have been developed to solve the gradient equation. Chief amongst them is Newton's method, and I have already made a video about that if you're interested. A more serious problem is that optimization problems often will have constraints. In the next video, we will explore the topic of duality in convex optimizations further and derive the KKT conditions that generalize the condition that grad of f equals 0 to optimization problems with constraints. And we will see a very nice solution technique to solve for these conditions that is known as the interior point method. And that will be the end of this second video. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.